seated.
Sometimes we let go of unfinished things. It's like a silent army waiting in the wings.
Commander Ronnie Brooks will now read the obituary.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the house that Dan helped build. Dan Parker Stony Stewart, that nickname's really significant, isn't it? Stony. Age 75 of Moorhead, passed away Wednesday, March the 24th, 2021, at his home. He was born on March the 7th, 1946, in Lackey, Kentucky, the son of the late Carl Edgar Stewart and Christine Wicker Stewart. Dan served in the United States Marine Corps, having served during the Vietnam War. He was awarded the National Defense Service Medal, the Vietnam Service Medal with 1 star, the Vietnam Campaign Medal, and the Good Conduct Medal. After his active duty service, Dan transferred to the Army National Guard, from where he retired. He was also the owner of the Moorhead Church Furniture Company. Dan was a deputy sheriff. He was the City of Moorhead building inspector. He was the assistant mayor to Johnny Holbrook, and he was a graduate of Moorhead State University, where he played football and ran track. In addition to his parents, he was preceded in death by 2 brothers, James Claude Stewart and Carl Ellis Stewart, and 1 sister, Catherine Stout. Survivors include his wife, Lena Peter Stewart, children Scott Frederick Bradley and wife Michelle of Jeffersonville, Indiana, Krista Arrington and husband Brad of Richmond, Kentucky, Shane Ortez and wife Fran of Columbus, Ohio, siblings Terry Stewart and wife Sharon of Franklin, Ohio, Ronald Stewart and wife Millie of Carlisle, Ohio, Larry Stewart and wife Anna Ruth of Lexington, Kentucky, and Mark Stewart of Franklin, Ohio. 3 grandchildren, Sarah Arrington, Smith Bradley, and Kate Bradley, several nieces and nephews, and other relatives and friends. Dan was a 53-year member of Corby Ellington Post 126, where he served in various offices, including commander. Dan was the very epitome of the Marine slogan, once a Marine, always a Marine. At this time, I'd like for any former Marines to please stand up. I know there's a couple back there in the back. There we go. Being Dan's mouthpiece, gentlemen, Semper Fi.
you get soon be gone. It was the blues that kept you strong and clear on. Just got for life. I said, when I die, I hope no one cries. Just let the music play. Oh my grave, the stone should say, let there be no tears today. No sad goodbye. No sad goodbye. No sad goodbyes. I swore I'd leave that town for good. Before I knew it, there I stood at the train.
The eulogy will now be presented by past post commander and Rowan County Judge Executive, Harry Clark.
Good afternoon, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of Dan's celebration. I've prepared quite a lengthy speech here, but I looked it over and it didn't really seem fitting. But this is a celebration of life. I've looked across the audience and I haven't seen a smile yet. So I'd like to offer this. You should have been here yesterday when I spent 3 hours trying to teach these Army guys how to light these candles. It was quite a show. All seriousness, you know, I met Dan probably about 1995, 96 time frame. I had retired, went to work at another place, came home on vacation. I know this is going to be hard to believe, but my brother Woody drug me into the American Legion to have 1 or 2 beers, just in case that comes up later, Cecil. So we went in to have a couple beers at the Legion, and we met a few gentlemen. Dan Stewart was one of them, and I don't think you could say Dan Stewart without saying Claude Meade, because they were 2 peas in a pod. And then put those in the middle of them was Gerald McDaniel. Now Gerald, he always pretended like he couldn't hear, especially when it was time to go for a round of beer. You know, he couldn't hear that part of it. But I hope I said Gerald, not Dan. Dan was pretty free with his money. But you know, it was always a privilege and a pleasure to be around Dan Stewart. I refer to Dan as a quiet professional because that's what Dan was. You know, when I met him and Claude Meade and Gerald, and they teamed up on me. I was a lifetime member of the VFW. I was AMVETS and several other organizations, but I was not a member of the American Legion. So you can see how that conversation went and how that evening went, because they about beat me to death over I should be in the American Legion. And that's where Dan instilled in me the need to be by the numbers. Dan was about what you could do and what you could do to the future. And he was very advocate about the fact that you do more in numbers. So you need the Legion numbers up, and that's how they recruited me into the American Legion Post 126. So, you know, I'm back and forth, and I finally moved here, and about 2005 time frame, become a little more acquainted with everybody, spent more time here, and Dan was the post commander at the time, and he had served, I think, a term before that, and then he was serving out his second term when I come along. And what I want to share with you is some things that, you know, I know you're all friends and you've been around Dan for a number of years. There's a few things probably that it's hard to share things that you don't know, but I hope I can share a few things that maybe will enlighten you on some of the things Dan accomplished. Dan and Claude Meade and Gerald McDaniel took me upstairs, and if you remember, we was down in the old Legion, and he took me upstairs, and they discussed me becoming the post commander. And I thought, boy, I don't want to do this. But they convinced me to do that. So I think the reason I'm telling you this is because Dan and that group of individuals that was here at the time, they wanted what was best for the Legion. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about anything other than what was best for the post and best for the community. And so they asked me to do it, and I think it was just because they figured I was Air Force and I wasn't very smart, so I'd probably take the job. And they was right, I did. But, you know, the whole time that I was the commander, and I will say this, those three individuals pledged their support to me if I would become the commander. And they held true to that pledge. When I was a commander, they absolutely supported me 100% all of the time. And not just them. We got Papaw Pete back here. We got Luther, Ronnie Brooks, some of these folks that's been around and been a part of this legion for many years. Jimmy Epperhart. I mean, the list goes on. Unfortunately, some of them can't be with us. But Dan was always about what was best for somebody else, not about what was best for Dan. He was a proud Marine. He was proud of his service in Vietnam. He was proud of his service to the country. But I think most of all, Dan Stewart was proud of what he did for this community. Dan never sat still. You know, in 1979, Dan thought it'd be a good idea to paddle a canoe through the waterways to give the first ball for the first pitch for the opening season for Cincinnati Reds and the San Francisco Giants. So, I mean, he was always involved. He was always trying to promote the community. He was always trying to promote the Legion. So, while I was commander, Dan did a lot to guide me. And like I said, Dan was a silent professional, quiet professional. If I was getting ready to trip up and do something that Dan wasn't sure it was going to be the right move, he'd take me off to the side and he would tell me, hey, look, I'll give you a perfect example of no smoking. I mentioned that a lot of people would approach me on the non-smoking, and Dan took me aside and he said, I think this is going to be bad. So we discussed it, we talked it through. At the end of the day, I said, well, I'm going to bring it up anyway. And Dan said, I'll support it. We went to a Legion meeting a couple days later, and the first one that made the motion to pass that resolution was Dan Stewart, because Dan Stewart held true to what he said. He said he would support this Legion and support the people running it. And we forget that sometimes today. Sometimes today, you make a decision that may not be popular, and people may advise you against it. But what you need to do, even if you advised against it, you need to support it 100%. If it fails, it's failed because it was a bad decision, not because it didn't have the support. I see that in this Legion. I've seen that in this Legion over the years. We got to continue to support each other. We got to make this Legion work. Dan was very proud of this Legion. When we started talking about moving from the old Legion downtown to here, Dan was the first one. Pushing, shoving. He was ready for it. We walked across the old Legion down when we had our breakfasts down there, and Dan started the morning breakfast. We started out with half a dozen donuts and a pot of coffee. Pete Ham was there and a very few more. Later on, probably a month or so later, Lana decided she was going to start cooking for us. Woo-hoo, no more donuts. So, and I remember how small it was when we started. Lana would pick up a pound of bacon, a dozen eggs, half a dozen of donuts, and make coffee. And that was it. And we still had leftovers. Today, from what Dan started, when we're out of COVID, here, they serve as many as 50 people on a Wednesday morning for a breakfast. And I tell you that because Dan was an optimist. He taught me early, and I can remember him saying this throughout the time he was here. Dan would say, whatever you had, whatever you were planning and whatever you did, maybe the first time, it may be you polished something up from the last time. But every time the event was finished, Dan would say, well, that's 100% better than it was. And I'm thinking, when he first told me that, it was at breakfast. I thought, well, it's the first breakfast we ever had. I guess it would be 100% better. But that's just the way he was. He was very optimistic about the way things went. So, you know, people can learn a lot from that. And people can learn a lot from Dan. It's just, you know, and you could go on and on. Dan held positions as district, I think he was a vice district commander. He was a post commander here. He was an area C commander. He was a judge advocate here. I'll touch on that. When Dan was an excellent writer, a very gifted writer. And couple years ago, they passed a resolution at the national level to allow any service member access to the American Legion that had ever served. Because before, there was about an 18-month block you could serve, but you couldn't join it. Dan Stewart wrote a resolution that would correct that. That was in about 2007. And it passed through the district, through the area, and through the state, and was turned down at the national level. But yet today, 2 years ago, they passed that very same resolution. But that's how much Dan Stewart cared about what was going on in the post. Dan was always quick to have a beer with you. Keep in mind, it was only one or two. I've never seen him or Fred or none of the rest of them drink any more of that. But it was just a pleasant time. You know, when we built this Legion, I know Dan was one of the individuals that, him and Claude, were two of the individuals that pushed hard to make sure there was no steps involved in the building. Well, I don't know if you noticed it or not, but when you got out of your car and come across that parking lot today, and you come here, there's not a step one anywhere. There's not a step from the parking lot to the sidewalk. It's all smooth in to here. And that is the vision that those folks passed on and gave to the rest of us when we were trying to figure this out. And it comes in very handy now. I mean, it really does. And that's the foresight. That's the leadership that Dan provided us. So today, we don't want to close the chapter on Dan Stewart's life. Today, we want to make a promise. We want to honor what I know would be Dan Stoney Stewart's, and I'll say Claude me because I have to, because like I said, they're two peas in a pod. Their desires would be to join together, stop the bicker, and let's put the post, the community, and the country above self. And let's, whatever differences we may have, whatever differences we may see in the future, let's work past those. And let's make this post the best post it can be. Let's make this community the best post, the best community that it can be. So I say, before I close, I want to say thanks to Alana for allowing it to be here so many friends could attend. I want to say thanks to Alana for taking good care of Dan. You know, when she took her vows, she took them serious. It said in health, in sickness and in health. And she stood by him religiously. And she set the example. And I'll say that that means a lot. It really means a lot, and it means a lot to us. Because Dan was our friend, and we knew he was taken care of. So we thank you for that. We thank the family for allowing us to be a part of this today. We give God thanks for the time that he shared Dan with us. And we want to bless the family. God bless the family. And God bless the USA.
We'll now have closing remarks and announcement by Post Commander Larry Porter.
It was my honor when Lana and Jimmy called me and asked if we could have the service here. And I told them we not only would have it, it would be our honor to have it. Dan, when I came back here and joined the Legion in 2015, Dan was in declining health, but he was still our judge advocate. Now, we passed several amendments to our bylaws and our constitution. I go to Dan, I tell him what we want. Dan would send it into state. Not one word was changed. Those came back approved. That's the kind of man Dan Stewart was. After the ceremony in Grayson, the family and the post would like to invite everyone back here for a meal. And in one last tribute to Dan, honor guard, stand to attention. Present arms. Order, arms. Right face. To the rear, exit.